Hey guys, Urban Combat Survivor here. I'm doing a response video to both Lambdog76 and Dangerous Dan. I don't know if anyone else did a response that I haven't seen yet, so if you have, I'm sorry I didn't see it yet. Lambdog's video is fighting economic hardship, and Dangerous Dan's is when free enterprise is outlawed, only outlaws have free enterprise. I'll put the links down there. Alright, I think originally Lambdog76 to your video. I think what you're doing there is you're making assumptions where you're comparing apples to oranges. So if your math is in a vacuum, yes, the math is maybe correct. The problem is that it's not a vacuum. The people that have circumvented that market have done so as a symptom of the problem. They aren't the problem, they're a symptom. The problem is that the government is over-regulating everything, and the unions took over everything in that country. So at the end of the day, you simply cannot afford to do business legally, what they currently call legal business. If you went back 50 or 100 years, you didn't have the black markets going on like you do today. You had that for certain items, but you didn't have the massive amounts of people circumventing the system, because the system wasn't that hard to work with. Nowadays, Dangerous Dan mentioned something in his video about the regulation, and you mentioned in a response to a comment to me, or somebody did somewhere, about needing 30 signatures to get anything done. We're going right there in this country. We're already headed down that same road. A friend of mine had a addition on his. He put an addition on his house. He did it himself, and it took him almost 3 years to get it all completed. Where the work itself took a total of maybe a month and a half. The reason it took so long is because he had to follow every ridiculous regulation. He had to go through all of these different offices, and then he had to wait because he wasn't willing to grease palms. So, at the end of the day, it's a symptom of the problem. He would have done it illegally if it wouldn't have been so prohibitive for him to do it illegally. They made the fines so big. Basically, they beat you with a little hammer, and they're going to keep whacking you ahead with this little hammer. Well, the only way that they're going to get people to allow them to keep hitting them in the head with this little hammer is if they say, if you stop us, we got this big giant hammer we're going to start hitting you in the head with. That's the only way that you can make a system like this, I'm not going to say work, but it's the only way you can make it continue moving. The problem is with systems like that is eventually they implode, as happened in many places in Europe now. All the people that are rioting all across Europe are the unions that were told, we can't afford you anymore. That's what the riots are. The government spending went out of control, partially, large part, because of the unions. And the governments are spending way, way too much money. See, this whole thing, these societies, these cultures, it's like a mass version of Stockholm Syndrome. People are looking, Dangerous Dan said this, people are looking to the government like the government is going to do something. That's Stockholm Syndrome. When someone is taken and held hostage by some armed person, eventually they start looking at that person as a protector of them. Well, it's the same thing we're doing with these governments. These are not our mommy. These are our captor at the moment. The way the system is right now, they are our kidnapper. Even multinational corporations, people get all pissed off because these multinational corporations, they find all these loopholes in the law, and they don't have to follow the same rules that we do. No, they don't. But thankfully, they have found ways around them. Because if they couldn't exist either. They would not be able to do business if they had to follow all of the rules. None of us can do business in this country if we actually follow every one of these regulations. We can't do it. It's not possible. If you sit and you really look into it, by the time it's done, you pay all these mandatory fees, all this mandatory licensing, all these mandatory insurance fees. By the time you're done, you're never going to be able to do business legally. Because by the time you're done, your 50-cent item, you would have to charge $10 for. And people are going to say, don't need it for $10, sorry. So, yes, your math is correct in a bubble, but unfortunately, it wouldn't work. And I think I know where you're going. I'm gonna wait and see if that's really where you're going. Maybe I'm seeing it a different way. But bringing the black market into the regular regulated market is not a solution, because those things are going to dry up. If you want a solution, in my opinion, that solution would be twofold. One, get the government and unions out of business. Get them out of business. If they step back, people will fix the problem. Business, individuals will step up and fix the problem. And the second part of that is fix the tax system. People cannot afford to do business with the taxes as they are. What you need to do, what in my opinion we need to do, is make a very simple and fair tax system. The only way to do that, as far as I can tell, is to utterly remove every tax other than the sales tax. Make there be absolute across-the-board sales tax. There is no exemption. There are no loopholes. There is no way out of it. Any dollar spent, whatever that dollar is spent on, wherever that dollar is spent, if the spender is in America, they pay a sales tax. The problem with doing that is the government can't run everything through a tax system like that, because then you would really see just how much money they're spending on shit that you don't want. All of these licensing fees, they're not counted in the tax revenue, but they're a tax. Every one of these little regulations they pass is some backdoor tax, because they know there's no way you're going to look at your paycheck and they took 70% of it. Nobody's going to go for that. So what they've done is they found backdoor ways to do this. But at the end of the day, they're ripping everybody off. And what are you getting for your money? Social programs that nobody wants? The only people who want the social programs are the people that are benefiting from them. Ironically, they're also probably the same people that'll tell you, I don't care what I got to do, I'm going to get mine. So they're benefiting from everybody putting into their little pool that they're sucking out of. But when it comes to them personally, they're not gonna stop. They're gonna do whatever they got to do to get theirs. So in the end, Dangerous Dan, I don't think you oversimplified more than is necessary. Just because they've made the problem so damn complex that it's difficult to understand in the first place, much less wrestle down and modularize, doesn't mean the solution has to be. The solution is very simple. Get the government and the unions out. Get them out, and we will go back to the economy we had before them, where we were thriving, and we will continue to thrive. This has to happen. It's not even just an opinion. It must happen, because if it doesn't, we're going to collapse. And when we collapse, the only two options left after that collapse are going to be rebuilding in a complete government-regulated society, or removing that regulation and letting industry and personal businesses take over and run the show, as we have done in the history of this nation up until they started hijacking it. Well, that's my take on it. I don't know if it's exactly the answer. Your questions weren't as clear as I think they could be, because I think you're going for something specific, and I don't want to extract what I think your specific goal in this conversation is. So I'll just answer it as it is, and if we get to the part where you're talking about deregulating the black market in the United States, then I'll address that. So I think I hit everything I wanted to hit. Well, probably not, but there's no time for everything, right? So if anyone else did a response, I'll check it over and see if I can do another video. Urban Combat Survivor, signing off.